This is Michael Kowalski, writer and performer of Mothman, True Story, and you are listening to the Unbelievers podcast. I know you wouldn't like it.
There were several groups. One of the principal ones was the reptilians from the Orion complex.
Without any exaggeration, it was like being on fire inside.
Rats were eating you up inside.
This stuff was in my mouth. It felt like it was 500 degrees. It was unbelievably hot.
My first question would be, were you a member of the Church of Satan, a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan?
I don't understand.
There's always an argument for everything. You know, just because somebody can fake something doesn't necessarily mean it's
World War, and we found a life form. And that's when I started shitting my pants.
So for the person who called, I am carrying an alien.
An alien baby. We covered right here, okay?
Okay.
Something is happening. What is it? That's the question. So do UFOs exist? It depends on what you mean exist.
Berkshires, Massachusetts, Labor Day 1969. A quiet and unassuming community experiences a wave of UFO sightings and abduction of local residents, resulting in a 50-plus year mystery that has yet to be solved. Tonight, the Unbelievers podcast returns to the site of the famous Reed Family Abduction to celebrate the Netflix reboot of one of the greatest television programs of all times, Unsolved Mysteries, and their UFO episode that finds that there is more to the historic Sheffield Reed case than giant turtle shells and running grannies. So join us now for the revenge of the Reeds on Unsolved Mysteries. It's Berkshire's UFO, right here on the program. We continue to learn to unlearn everything you know. Hello and welcome to the Unbelievers podcast. I'm your host, Russ Ryan, and joining me as always is my co-host, Drea Mora. Hello, Drea.
Hello, Russ.
And my other co-host, TV's Brendan Shea.
How's it going, guys?
And our soundboard engineer and producer, Rob Oakey.
Why'd they bring him back? If he was abducted 50 years ago.
What's up, guys?
I thought it was, why do we bring you back?
Yeah,
Why'd you bring him back?
Why'd they bring me back? I don't know.
We'll always got to bring you back. Speaking of bringing back, Brendan Shea back. Glad to have you, buddy. How have you been?
Oh, really, really good. Glad to be on a... Is this a real show?
We're not sure yet. Honestly, we don't know.
Yeah, you've been on a lot of real shows lately. Of course, you're always on Serial Spirits, but we got to catch you on Paratalk Radio with Ted and Cindy. We maybe have to talk about that later, but go check that out. Brendan's appearance on there. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll have to save that for later because it was pretty credible to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. And you plugged this show so much. You're getting all these great soundboard clips of your own in there, like the walking soundboard machine. So thanks a lot for plugging us on there. But we've got a fun one tonight. We are very excited about, so let's get into it now. It's Unsolved Mysteries, Berkshire's UFO. Remix. This is the 2020 remix of the Unsolved Mysteries theme. That is a great new intro for the classic.
So good. It was so good. It's because it's got a little bit more creepiness somehow.
It's like I said that the other day on Talk with Teddy there, that the intro, Netflix kills it with all their intros and all the stuff that they do, but that one, like, I was really, really super, super happy that they kind of kept it original. It still gave you the chills when you heard it.
Yeah. Oh, it was good.
Yeah, and the ghostly Robert Stack greets you. But so yes, let's get into it. So we have mentioned our affinity for Unsolved Mysteries before. It's very influential to many of us, and I think a lot of our interest in the paranormal and these unbelievable topics, it stems from watching this in our youth, and it's back. Now it is back. The original Unsolved Mysteries, if you remember, was hosted by Robert Stack from 1988 to 2005. And the hit original show, it had over 260 episodes. It was 11 seasons. They did over 1,000 stories. They got 6 Emmys. Complete classic show of the paranormal and unsolved things. And then they rebooted it in 2008 with new host Dennis Farina. I think we've touched on him before when they redid one of the classics we've talked about. But it is back now. It just came out July 1st on Netflix with the new host. There is no host.
New host, silent guy.
Yeah, it's a bold move, and it kind of is what it is. You just take it for what it is. But Unsolved Mysteries, in its original run, they would usually focus on 3 or 4 different topics on each episode. There would be a crime, or a strange disappearance, a UFO, alien, or ghost, or shit, or something. It covered it all. But this reboot, the 2020 reboot, is different because it is just one topic per episode. And all 6 new episodes released so far, I mean, most of them, Brandon, they're like Serial Spirits territory. So mostly crime stuff has come out so far, right?
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked that they had so many crime stories, and me and Annie were like, "Are we watching Oxygen right now? Or are we watching Unsolved Mysteries?"
Right.
Well, you got to admit though, there is a thing about the cases that they pick are very unique cases and very mysterious cases, especially the first one with the guy going through the roof. That whole story is just so bizarre.
That one had like a weird twist to it anyway, with the whole
Freemasons, they throw in Freemasons in there out of nowhere. You don't know what's going on with that whole story. It's great, they just picked great stories, that's the thing that makes it similar to the original Unsolved Mysteries, is the stories themselves.
Well, the best part about it too is one of the crime stories, the one with the guy Pistol, who his mom went missing too. She was the hairdresser, and they talk about the husband being the new Carol Baskin because he had something to do with his wife's disappearance.
Oh, you have to save it. Don't spoil anything. I haven't watched any of these true crime ones because this is the Unbelievers podcast, and there was only one episode of this that I was looking at, and that was about our friends, the famous Reed family abduction. This was the one chosen as the one UFO is something we did, the famous Reed family abduction.
Yes.
Yeah, that was exciting. I wasn't expecting to see that, and it's pretty timely.
Yeah, they don't call it the Reed family abduction. That's
yeah, we'll have to get to that because we joked a lot about this case not being famous at all, and all of the drama surrounding the Thomas Reed UFO park being erected, then shut down by the city. Their benches were gone. This show actually spawned a lot in for us because as far as making the bench in Pascagoula all came from this, but that's all changed now because right now this is the most famous UFO case out there thanks to Netflix and Unsolved Mysteries. So we're going to get into it because in this, it turns out there is a lot more to this UFO event than we thought or were told before. So the Unsolved Mysteries episode is titled Berkshires UFO, not Reed family, not even, it used to be called the Sheffield incident, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
why I was confused.
Yeah, so was
Jinx.
Jinx. Yeah. And so Berkshire UFO states that on the evening of September 1st, 1969, an unexplained phenomena occurred in Berkshire County, Massachusetts. And as mentioned, there is no host to tell us what's in store for us. That, may be able to help solve a mystery. We don't get to hear any of that. Instead, this show, they give us a cold open from an older woman who says this.
This is the house that I lived in. I came here when my 2 youngest sons were probably 10, 12 years old. This is where they were wrestling. And they looked up and they saw it and ran into their grandmother who was babysitting for my 2 younger ones. And she didn't believe them. And she said not to tell me because she didn't want to upset me. And I came home from that experience and said, I'm not going to tell them because I don't want to frighten them. So that when you people called and said you were going to do this, I called my son and I said, guess what? Years ago, I saw this. He said, Mother, we saw that too. And I said, but you didn't tell me. He said, but you didn't tell us. So all these years, we never spoke of it.
His family's pretty bad at communication. And when I first watched this, and knowing this is about that famous Reed case, I thought this was Thom Reed's mom. No, they even mentioned a grandma. This is a totally different family from the Thomas Reed thing.
Another reason I was confused, I was like, am I watching the right episode? But yeah, it's like, it's gotta be. It's got too many coincidences to not be the right story.
Yeah, we thought this was just a family affair.
Yeah.
It's always, there is a park, it is back, we'll talk later, named the Thom Reed UFO Memorial Park, all about this event. No mention of him yet. I know this is just the beginnings. Maybe it's not all his story. And before we go...
How about that background music? That's actually pretty freaky. They killed it with the background music too. Sorry to sidetrack there.
The whole score is fantastic. It's like iconic. As soon as you start to hear that little piano riff underneath anything, immediately that just get a chill up your spine. You're like,
yeah, it's so well produced. It's not cheesy. Yeah, there's a lot of these kinds of shows out there, and they're so over dramatic. But this one, it's just really well done.
It helps it a lot, especially that point about there being no host. I feel like
a totally different show.
I felt early on, that music really helped it, and it almost felt like they left room for where that host voice would go. Brendan, did you notice that? Where there'd be these long, lingering shots, and you could almost, narrate it to yourself, be like, Thomas Reed, a young boy.
Is that what you did when you were watching?
Who rode horses.
I did. I actually did. I did that. I'm not going to lie.
That's great. I wish that I could have watched it with you guys, because I was just staring at it. I'd forget that I was watching Unsolved, because I thought it was like some other documentary. It just felt so different.
They do a good job at letting the witnesses tell the story through tell the narrative through their interviews. And then I think you're saying, your inner monologue in your mind is kind of the host, because
as you're following, kicks in.
Robert Stack is in your mind, and he's just getting you through that episode.
Yeah.
And it's a great effect that they have.
Yeah, a young woman buys horses for her sons. No mention of that. It could have gone a lot of different ways. Things they never touched on. So that lady, that's not the Reed family. And if this isn't the mother of the Reed, then who is this? Well, let's find out.
I'm Jane Green. I've lived in Great Barrington since I was 12 years old. We were a prominent family because of our store. We had the oldest Rexall pharmacy in the Northeast. In this small town, if somebody changes their diet from a donut to a roast beef sandwich, everybody in town knows it.
My name's Tom Warner. The house I'm in now, we've been in for 6 generations. My son's been the 6th generation. We've had the same very house since 1835. I was the youngest of 7 children. A lot of things were happening back in 1969. America was really changing rapidly. 10 years old, you're changing too.
Yeah, that's Jane Green and Tom Warner. These are new players in this. Really interesting ones. And the times are changing, Drea, and he's changing too.
Dude, I just got to say that would be my nightmare, for everybody to know that I changed my diet from a donut to a roast beef sandwich or whatever.
Who's talking about that?
That is my diet, is roast beef sandwiches and donuts.
And donuts.
So I don't know what I would change.
You get 2 donuts, and then you put roast beef in between them, and now start talking. I'll give you something to talk about. No. Don't talk about what I'm eating. God, that's my worst
You'd think
nightmare.
the town would take to UFOs with such boring fare going around.
Right? I know. They got nothing else better to talk about. But I mean, I do like the overall aesthetic, those pictures and everything. It's just this really quaint little town, and the perfect place for this family to grow up in. And it sounds like, like a UFO would, if anything, unite the town.
Yo, Russ, guess what Drea had for lunch?
Oh, geez,
how she usually has a donut? She had a roast beef sandwich.
Right.
There was bread. I used bread this time. Yeah, I sent you guys a picture of the bread that I used.
We are not this town. This is not Joe. I'm not worried about any of your diets. But as you were saying, as I'm watching this too, at this point we're meeting these cool people, but I was still not sure if this is in fact that famous Reed, aka Sheffield UFO. But here he is now. Reed enthusiasts can rejoice because he is back. Thom Reed.
My mother was from Hollis, Queens. So we had been raised in more of a city environment. When we moved here, it was more or less to assure a nice upbringing for the family. This Norman Rockwell feel.
I had recently acquired a little restaurant called the Village Green in the middle of Sheffield, which was kind of a place where a lot of people gathered and met. I was a single mother, and I was trying very hard to give the boys an idyllic kind of a life.
I never felt like I belonged here. I always felt that I was meant for something else. In 1969, it would have been just under 10.
Yeah, he's also 10. It's 1969, changing with the times. I feel like
every year that goes on, he changes a little bit more, another year older.
A little bit more, yeah, like the times.
1969, man. What a year.
What a year.
What a year to be 10 years old.
It's the summer of love, man. Summer of love.
It was the summer of 69.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to mention it again. I actually had to re-listen to our first take on this because there's so much in the story that wasn't in this. But yeah, I think I've even mentioned that this happened on Labor Day 1969. So it's the end of Summer of Love, Brendan. This is when it got shut down.
Yeah, this is no more summer.
Of the aliens. So now we've got Reed in this story, but we've also got other people. And another new player in this story also emerges, a woman named Melanie Kirchdorfer.
My name is Melanie Kirchdorfer. I've lived here since 1957. I was 12 years old in 1969. As kids, we would spend a lot of time on the main street. We were pretty wild. My sister and I had a friend that would steal cigarettes from her mom, so we wanted to go share a cigarette together that weekend. We did not want to get in a car with our parents and get ice cream. It was the last thing we wanted to do. Something weird took place here. We were a part of it.
Yeah, now the story has changed from what we know of just a single family. Remember, our thing was that they were a multi-generational abduction family, and there's little to no, there's no mention of that the grandma claimed that of Thomas Reed, that is. These are all new players in that. But I do like this Melanie Kirchdorfer. She seems like she's a cool lady. She's got a lot.
It sounds like an X-Files episode now with like Kirchdorfer and like all these weird people.
We went to go share a cigarette.
There's another Tom that makes it confusing. There's Tom Warner and there's Thom Reed. Now Reed has to share the stage with Warner.
Yeah, I got a little confused there, but I think it's a good thing that there's other people that he has to kind of share this with, because when you're just one on your own, you're less likely to be believed.
I'll say that's what I say was surprised that this was on here, because his story alone I don't think gets you on Unsolved Mysteries. The way we went through it was kind of like that was a lot to be
This Tom Warner guy, I like this Tom Warner guy right off the bat. As soon as he comes into the story, I'm kind of like, I have a feeling this guy's going to be cool. He's got long hair. He's kind of got like a hippie vibe to him.
This guy he made the episode.
Yeah, he's definitely the dude who he pulls out a doobie out of his front pocket and just is like, look what I got.
Want to go see some UFOs?
He's that guy.
Yeah, he pulls that doobie out. I was like, you guys want to get abducted? All right.
I think there's probably a strain called that. I mean, there's Martian energy. There's got to be
I'm
some
sure he's got
energy
it out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is all the new players. Old and new players are all being introduced. So it's actually time for the UFO stuff. And the first account comes from Jane Green, who we heard earlier, who is driving home with her friend Mary DeGrace, who has passed on, and she notices something strange on the road.
We were driving down, and I saw a lot of lights, and I said, there must have been an accident. There must be a lot of police cars up there. Look at all the lights. As I got closer, I couldn't even drive anymore because the lights were so bright. So I pulled over to the side, and I noticed the car in front of us pulled off to the side, too. And I got out of the car, and I will never, if I get Alzheimer's, the one thing that'll stick in my mind, what happened. This huge object floated right there, and I couldn't see the end of it from the right or from the left.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting sighting, and this woman sounds credible. This story is got a lot more to it than we initially thought.
Yeah, even though it's got some kind of basic staples that a lot of people end up telling in their stories, which I find to be something that makes it more credible, but some other people tend to be like, well, yeah, they heard other stories, so they just said the same thing. Hers were a little bit different, and I don't know, she does sound more believable. She just doesn't look like she's bullshitting.
I think we've mentioned earlier in other episodes that anytime an older person says it, it almost feels a little more believable. Yeah. Like a little extra credibility comes from being older. Like I don't know why that comes, but it does.
She seems like she just left church. She's like on her way home from church. She's just this nice old lady. She's got no reason to lie about it. And I love that this UFO is holding up traffic. Never heard of that before. Just a UFO causing a traffic jam? That's a new one.
Yeah. Because it is a pretty small town and everything, so they probably didn't realize that there was going to be anybody coming down that road.
Also, it was Labor Day night. This is all happening at the same time. All the events we're going to hear are all from that same night. We've heard, described in the classic Reed story. This is also happening at the same time. And Miss Green, she goes on to describe what she saw that night in more detail.
I can't tell you whether it was bronze or whether it was silver, whether it was gold. It was immense, and it was tall, but the bottom part, I didn't see windows, I didn't see any, and most of all, there was no noise. There was no motor. There was nothing. It just was there. And these lights were coming in, and I just looked at it, and within a period of seconds, it lifted up, went this way, lifted up again, and went over the mountain.
Yeah, and I want to say the audio going weird there, that is not us. I actually had to go back and check. Rob, play soundboard 1, because during her audio, it almost sounds like a Skype call or a Discord going robot. Listen.
Whether it was bronze or whether it was silver, whether it was gold.
I don't know.
I thought she was discussing a rod there. The way she started describing it, she's like, is it tall? Is it bronze? Is it gold? Is it long?
Could be a rod. Could be. I do hear it sounds like her cyborg side is coming out in the middle of that.
A little bit. I had to check that it was
possibly. I
thought it might have just been my recording. I actually went back and watched it on different things. I'm like, no, this is on the Netflix version. Watch play soundboard 1. I don't know why. Just her audio gets weird.
Whether it was bronze or whether it was silver, whether it was gold.
Oh, that. Now I hear it.
Whether
I
it was
never noticed
gold.
it before. Yeah. It's just, I don't know, like a mixing. Maybe her microphone was too close to her face.
She's talking about UFO. I'm nitpicking whether she's doing this over Skype, which is clearly not. That's what stood out about this, because it's a very, very well done production. So I was like, those had to be on purpose. They've got like those Stranger Things, almost little noises in the background.
Oh, to get those glitches to get people like you curious.
Every once in a while,
I did not notice.
Every once in a while, those SD cards, weird shit happens. There'll be like a little.
Really?
It was literally like that was like a half a second thing that just happened. I think it's possibly just error on the data. Yeah.
Yeah, I
like
thought
when
no
the
one would
reptilian
ever
growls
catch it.
happened, though, it's like, what if it's because she's talking about that stuff that a little interference comes in?
That is also true. That's a possibility. We have heard that before.
It's one of those moments where you like watch it back and you're like, oh shit, we didn't catch that.
Oh, she does. Her eyes blink sideways that 1 second. God damn it! Now people know.
She uses a phrase, the way she describes it, as having no sound and no motor. Like, we've heard that before. That's something people say when they have their first UFO experience. They always say it looked huge, but it didn't make any sound. And this is an old lady. I don't know if this woman is like a sci-fi fan. I don't think.
She doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
I don't know if she would have heard that sort of description before, but it sounds pretty genuine coming out of her mouth.
I put her around that time. It's the same time as the Calvin Parker incident and stuff. But people then didn't really, weren't that into sci-fi. And don't reptilians really like gold? She was talking about what metals?
Oh, yeah. Well, she couldn't tell what color it was. So I guess based on the other stories that she must have heard about UFOs, because she doesn't seem like she really paid much attention to that she was, people would be expecting that it would be shiny and everything. But so she goes through that list of colors, but it could have been a matte black or something,
Yeah, I'm just harping on it to mess with her.
Yeah, she had no idea what color it was.
Yeah. Oh, who knows? But the next event to occur on this Labor Day evening, 1969, it happened to the 10-year-old Tom Warner, who we heard earlier, the guy that Robin and Brendan really love. Here's his story.
I remember exactly where I was. I was doing artwork, coloring. My medium back then was Crayola. I'd always go next door to the Shaws, and Debbie, who was Jane's sister, would always, instruct me how to stay in the lines and all that stuff.
He always colored with my sister, who was 4 years older than Tommy. Tommy, stay in the lines. Stay in the lines. I said stay in the lines. And that's what she would do with him. I've seen Tommy since the day he was, brought home from the hospital. That night that he ran out, it scared the living heck out of us.
Yeah, poor Tommy. He's just coloring. Cut him some slack.
He seems to like it. He goes back. He goes intentionally to color with her. He's like, no, I need the discipline.
Yeah, play soundboard 2. It doesn't sound like fun.
I said stay in the lines.
Ah, okay.
Slams the table, too.
He needs structure in his life. He craves stability.
My medium was Crayola.
Yeah, that was great.
I did like that, too. He said that very sincerely, too, where I was like, I think he is just jokingly saying that. And, yeah, he is a real fun guy. But the woman at the end there that is named is Jane Shaw. That is a different Jane from the one who saw the light. So already there's 2 Toms, there's 2 Janes. They're adding in really similar people to a story we already know. But Tom's story is going to get even stranger now.
After I did the coloring, I walked over to this window, and this voice told me, you need to go home now. That just scared the daylights out of me. I mean, it was like commanding me to go home. And I said to Debbie, Debbie, I have to go home. And she goes, why? I said, I don't know. Maybe God's talking to me from those clouds. I don't know. And so I started bolting out the door.
I could just feel this energy that was inside me that was like fear from the mental telepathy that I just experienced. And my whole desire just to get from this point here to my house. And I was running full speed. And I remember just feeling like I was flying at this point.
And he was like running right here in place. Just constantly for about 5 minutes, he was running in place.
Yeah, that claim is incredible. That he was stuck running in place for 5 minutes, and there were witnesses. I mean, you hear accounts like this from people, but someone actually witnesses happened to him.
Yeah, that's nuts. And the running in place thing, I laugh a lot of times at people's exaggerations. I have to wonder if it was literally 5 minutes that he was running in place and she's just standing there watching him.
It makes me think of like he's lagging in a video game, just like,
yeah.
You know,
like it's like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, but
it's
for
like
5 freaking
cartoon.
minutes.
Yeah.
He just cannot get any traction.
Yeah.
Jeez. It sounds like a nightmare that you have sometimes.
Well, I think it's kind of
move.
weird though. He like all of a sudden has this feeling he has to get up and look out the window, and then something tells him, "Hey, you got to go home."
Yeah, I can't remember
really
what
weird.
other story that's happened a few times, right? Where people just have that compulsion to go.
Well, like
outside.
a direct telepathic experience is what he had. He had someone speaking in his brain was just telling him, "Go home." Which
go home now. And you're always told to listen to that voice, that follow the instinct of that and go. Not in this case. He should have stayed inside with everybody. Maybe you shouldn't always listen to that voice because it really screwed him over here.
Well, you know who used to do that all the time? That was Indrid Cold. He used to speak telepathically to Woody Durham.
Well, maybe because this is his time period too. Now we're talking 69, like a couple years after Mothman. So maybe he's part of this. But there is more to Tom's story, more than just running in place.
I was running, but I wasn't moving. I just got a feeling that something was wrong. And I didn't know what it was, but it just gave me chills. And as I turned slowly, and a UFO dropped right out of the sky right in front of me. And a beam came on me. And as the light was on me, my hands jerked back like this. And it's like air got sucked out of me.
The light came around him this way towards his left. And the next thing I know, he disappeared.
And in a blink, in a flash, I was gone.
Where did Tommy go? Can't find him.
Where did Tommy go? Yo, a blue beam hits him. This is happening the same time as an abduction we've talked about. This has never been, and it's witnessed by other people. This is not Thom Reed. This is another Tom completely.
Yeah, they got the wrong Tom, maybe. It's just, that is so creepy. And it's really weird that this hasn't been talked about more, that we haven't heard from this lady before.
Yeah, I have thoughts about Thom Reed and as far as his story goes, too. I mean, I've always kind of believed his story, just had certain thoughts about him. But if all this is going on, you think it would have been incorporated before this.
Well, I think there's a game of, like, connect the dots that's happening. Like, this is an ongoing case, which is why they featured it on the show, is that things are still coming out. Witnesses are still stepping up, and, like, people who were afraid to talk about this in the past are now hopping into this story. So the story just continues. And that's why I think some of this stuff, before it was just Tom who was really talking about it. Nobody else wanted to be considered crazy. And now I think he's leading the way for all these other experiencers to step out of the darkness and say, you know what, I did see something that night. And that's why the story is really growing the way that it is.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised it took so long, because, I mean, we've known about it for
he's been out talking about this, for many, many years. And so far, right now, we've heard 2 credible sightings in the same area in the same night. And let's follow the timeline of events here, and we're going to hear what happened to Melanie Kirchdorfer. She's that fun lady we heard earlier who snuck the cigarettes, the wild kid. Let's see if she ends up getting that ice cream with her parents. Let's see.
My father backed into the parking lot, and this brilliant, bright aura came around. I get goosebumps thinking about it. And he looked up and he said, "Holy shit."
Whoa.
And my mother is like, "Oh, Joey." And all of us kids are like, what is that? And start screaming. He's like, "Oh, we got to chase this." And I'm like, no, please don't. And my mother's like, "Oh, it's just a shooting star. It's just," and I'm like, It's not just a shooting star. Dad, please don't chase it. Please don't chase it. And he starts chasing it.
Oh, shooting star, you say, huh?
I think your brain is a shooting star, son. Very funny.
Yeah, I love the dad.
Brain, son.
Brendan, is this the kind of dad you're going to be if you see that meteor shooting or that shooting star, you're chasing it, huh?
Yeah, and absolutely, my kids better be like, "Yeah, Dad, we're chasing it." They better be like, "No, I don't want to chase it," because I'll
you're no child
of
mine.
Smack them. Yeah,
Brendan's gonna be like,
"That baby went in warp drive."
For real.
Yeah, that's good. You teach them. What about? I mean, Russ, I'm sure you're the kind of dad to go chase after something.
I absolutely would. I absolutely would. And my wife, of course, be saying it's a shooting star or telling me my brain's a shooting star. Hopefully, I'll be saying play soundboard 3 because there's a momentous moment as there's a curse on Unsolved Mysteries.
Holy shit!
Oh, hey. This isn't our Unsolved Mysteries now. You can curse on there now. Netflix.
No, it is our Unsolved Mysteries. It's us grown up. Now we're allowed to curse.
Yeah, Mom can't tell us what to do anymore.
Yeah, that's right. You can't censor us, Grandpa. We're going to have people cursing and no Robert Stack. Wait a minute. What do we do?
Holy shit.
You know, I would rather have Robert Stack than the ability to curse. But
yes,
cool
that's this week's poll. Would you rather curse or have Robert Stack?
But could you imagine Robert Stack coming out of the shadows in his trench coat and be like, "This is some creepy shit."
Holy shit.
He's like, "What the fuck was that?" That would be great.
Oh, come on, clean it up. But here's some more from Miss Kirchdorfer, whose story is about to intersect with the boy we heard earlier, Tommy Warner.
My sister and I, we were like shaking. She said she doesn't remember anything after that, but I remember levitating, and then I remember being on a ship. I remember being laid out on it.
That's when I saw Melanie. It was the only face I remember. She just was crouched to my right.
I don't remember seeing him, but he said he remembers seeing my eyes, and that I was really scared.
Okay, so not only is she abducted, Thom Warner, who was running in place just, a few minutes earlier, he now sees her. He sees her in the ship. She doesn't see him. He sees her eyes. And they've actually connected. They've connected years later after this, over this event.
See, that's what's so strange to me. It's like, I understand that she didn't realize why that they had a connection, right, when she sees him. But, you kind of, you have to think that in some point over all these years that you're going to say something to them and be like, especially if he recognized her on the ship, like how come he didn't say anything to her?
Well, they don't know each other. They don't know each other before.
Yeah,
this.
They're both kind of young, but yeah, they're somehow in this small town. Not
I'm just saying,
everyone knows.
They're
different
all these
ages.
years since.
Well, they're different ages, and they never were friends with each other. But
no, I recognize that. I'm saying like in all these years since then, like that he never thought, because he said that he saw her though.
They're very vague. They're very vague on that because they do mention that he's almost like a brother to me now, but we don't know when this connection was made. They keep out a lot of details. I mean, a lot of details about the actual event, but how everyone hooked up later, Stranger Things style, I don't know because they never showed them. They never really showed them together. They're not like the Goonies. It's not like Thom Reed, Thom Warner, and all them. It's not like they're all hugging and friends now. They're all filmed completely separately. Even mothers and sons are never even shown together.
I did get the impression that they had just. Like their connection was relatively new, like
recent.
Yeah, like that, like maybe.
Yeah,
that,
but they didn't say,
had just
so we don't know.
Recently. It seemed that's what it seemed like to me, and the way that she talked, the way she spoke about it, that having lived in the same place as this guy for so long and never having met him before.
Yeah, such a small town, man.
And they both seem to like to party. He was just a little younger, I guess. But she may not remember seeing him on that ship, but she does remember actually being aboard the ship, and she had this to say about it.
I was in a room with just young people. There were like children, and then they would just disappear one by one by one by one. And then I woke up and I was at the lake by myself, and then I had to walk home.
She actually sounds a lot loopier in just the audio than watching her. Yes, she's aboard the ship. She's seeing the kids get dressed. It's like 1, 2, 3, gone.
3,
doesn't it sound like this is just like an alien bus ride for kids? Like, what is happening? They pick these kids
creepy.
It is. It makes me really uncomfortable that it's just like they were all young people and And then they don't even drop them off at the right house.
It's like the alien Epstein Express. They pick a bunch of kids, but it's only for a few minutes, and they end up just dropping them off somewhere inconvenient after. They're not gone long.
Find your own way home. So rude.
I do have flashbacks right now of being the last kid on the bus getting dropped off at my house, being one of the last people. That's what it does. It does seem like that kind of.
Like falling asleep on the bus, and you wake up at the gas station where they park, and you're like, what do I...
You know, like as your friends get off and you're like, see you later, and then like, you don't know if you're going to see them all weekend, that kind of thing. It's kind of a sad thing. You see all your friends leaving the spaceship without you. You don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
Especially if you end up just kind of like lying down like I did. Just I'd be like one of the last kids on there, if not the last. And I would lie down on the back seat at the very back of the bus, just listening to whatever radio station they had on. I'm surprised that the bus driver remembers. They're like, "Oh right, I have one more stop, and I didn't wind up in the bus yard."
These are aliens. They've got it together. This is not the public school.
Oh, that would be the
drop her off
worst.
at a lake.
That would be the worst if they didn't realize you were still on the spaceship and they went just like a school bus, and like the school bus goes back to the parking lot, but the spaceship goes back to wherever, Zeta Reticuli, and then they get there and they're like,
dude.
shit.
That's what happened to Jim Sullivan. He thought he was taking a little desert trip, and he fell asleep in there and passed out.
Now he's in Albuquerque. Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Sucks.
So she's watching people get dropped off, and then Tommy Warner, he gets dropped off shortly after. But his experience is a little different from Melanie.
The next thing I know, I'm being laid down at the other end of the property over here. And you can describe it as if you laid down a baby onto the ground, just like that. And when I looked up, there was a beam on me. And with the beam on me, my brother was in back of me, and he said, "Run!" And I couldn't run. I said, "I can't. The beam's holding me on the ground." And then mental telepathy said, "I'll be done in a minute." In a minute, the light beam went off. I rolled just slightly to my right. I stood up like this. I looked up. I turned around. And it was gone.
And they love putting that beam on him. No one else got the beam this whole night, but everything's on him. I like it's like the mental telepathy said, "Yeah, give me a minute, hurry up."
I'm almost done, guys. Shut up. Just shut up.
This was my favorite part of the episode because he actually lays down on the ground and he's sitting there like...
Just showing them.
Yeah. He's like,
"Here's what it looks like when I lie down."
This is what it actually looks like if a guy is lying on the ground. It's just like this. And it's like, yeah, that's what we assumed.
Except as a kid, you probably didn't, look like that.
Like just like this, except 50 years earlier. Yeah.
Picture me as a kid doing, like, lying down, though.
He's got the producers there, and he's still laying there like 5 minutes later, and they're like, "Are you done?" He's like, I'll be done in a minute.
In a minute.
I'll be done in a minute.
We didn't want this in the first place.
And the image of an alien laying him down like a baby, like his full-grown self.
I think the beam did that.
Or the beam laying him down like
beam.
But someone's controlling that beam. There's an alien in the spaceship with the joystick, and he's just like, "All right, lay him down nice and easy. There we go."
He's like,
a baby.
He's freaking out. Push mental telepathy. Push mental telepathy. Tell him a minute. And they actually talked to the woman who witnessed him disappear, so I guess she's waiting for him there, and she said that he was gone a total of 7 minutes. So that alien bus ride only took 7 minutes, and it was a very short amount for Melanie as well. She was not gone very long either.
Weird. Very weird. Do you think there was some time, like missing time thing going on there?
There wasn't.
That's what I was wondering with her. Like, were they all wearing
don't
wristwatches
have the missing time.
There's no missing time.
7 minutes, but it's not really missed because there's a witness to at least to Tommy Warner disappearing. She knows how long he's gone.
Yeah, it's just, it'd be weird for me because it's already nighttime. Sometimes when you're asleep and you wake up in the middle of the night, you can kind of tell how long you've been asleep for. But I imagine with these, it wouldn't exactly be the same. You could feel like absolutely no time's passed, or just
7 minutes. 7 minutes is really fast. That's like express. That's like an express job right there. Like,
whoa, what kind of job are you talking about, Rob?
Like a car wash, like an express car wash.
Oh, okay, a car wash. Sure.
It's an Express DNA Kid Express was going on.
Oh God. Oh,
but. Both of these stories of abduction, they see each other on the ship, they're being dropped off, there's blue beams, it's very compelling, but where is famous Thomas Reed? You might be asking. I thought this was, he's not in this at all yet. Well, here he is, and they actually give a good amount of time to his story, and it's mostly what we talked about in our last Famous Reed episode. I believe it's a year to the day that you're listening to this. Strange coincidence. Wowie. I'll give you a little brief recap on that. Tom, along with his brother, mom, and grandmother, are driving home about the same time, Labor Day night, and they decide to take a shortcut through the covered bridge because why wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
And the mother is driving, Granny is sitting shotgun, and as they drive to the bridge, the grandmother turns to tell the boys something, and then this happens.
And when she turned around and facing the back of the station wagon, she noticed what looked like a light rising from the banks of the Housatonic River.
I can remember this like yesterday. There was a light ball hovering, maybe about 2 stories high. We were amazed. I mean, we'd never seen anything like it. It was glowing.
And then as it rose, it fired these rods of light.
Oh my God. All right, it's happened. Play soundboard 4. Rods and reeds have now met, as was foreseen.
It fired these rods.
All right.
Rods and reeds.
Thom Reed with the rods. I didn't know which one. Tell me which one you like better, that one or play soundboard 5. Should we keep this?
It fired these rods of light.
Yeah, I don't know if light takes away from it or not.
When I heard this, when I was watching this and I heard this, I looked immediately at Annie and I said, "Oh my God, Russ is going to lose his mind when he hears that line."
It's all coming together. The reeds, the rods, they finally
I gotta hear them back to back. I'm not sure.
Right,
you looked right at Annie and you said,
he goes, "There's rods on your tape."
There was rods on this tape. Yeah, Dre wasn't here. Let's hear 4 and 5 back and forth. We'll vote one off.
It fired these rods.
Okay, that's the first one.
It fired these rods of light.
Nah, yeah, we gotta lose the light.
Yeah, I didn't
I just want to fire rods.
I don't want to know what the rods. I don't want to know what the rods are made out of.
Leave it to the imagination. What kind of
And keep that to yourself.
Fired these rods.
All right.
Yeah.
That's more intimidating.
It is way more intimidating.
And it was for them, because this was more than just rods of light. Here is another familiar description.
And then bang, my mother notices this thing first in the sky, and she's like, "My God, what is that?"
There was a disc-shaped object hovering there. It looked something like if you ever took a turtle shell and turned it sideways and looked at it. It was like that, and then it was a little shorter under here, but in the middle there was a different ridge to it.
Yeah, I think she started the turtle description, and Thom Reed ran with it. I like the Mother Reed a lot.
Is that who they're talking about in this clip?
He describes it as a giant turtle shell.
Oh, she said he. So there's somebody else who described it as a giant turtle shell as well.
Thom Reed has been describing that for years.
It would be Tom.
So yeah, the whole Reed family likes turtles as much as I do. That's great. That's why I like them.
Turtle power.
They're heroes in a half shell.
Heroes in a half shell, indeed.
That's right. Shooting rods of light to all, Labor Day participants. But as they are watching this giant turtle shell, the entire car fills with light. It's very spooky. It gets very, very quiet.
I mean, usually you hear some summer noises, and everything was deadly still and silent. Then all of a sudden, the chirping started loudly. It erupted, crickets, everything. And that's the last I remember. That was it.
This eruption of crickets and katydids and frogs and whatever it was seemed to affect the entire area, the wildlife. And then that's the last thing I remember being in the car.
Yeah, that is unsettling. And I remember that detail from before where you talked about like the barometric pressure dropping and it feeling like you're almost in a hurricane. I remember that was his former description. Now the nature has come up as well.
And that kind of makes sense too, because sometimes when you do have those pressure changes, like, you can kind of either have your ears pop or just like, I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I'll just kind of like for a quick second lose hearing in like one ear or the other.
Your equilibrium gets all out of whack.
And so you can only imagine if, with a UFO, how much more magnified that would be. And that'd be really scary.
Yeah, it's a really scary scene. I mean, also just thinking of covered bridges in the countryside driving. I mean, it's like
You're
the beginning
so afraid of covered bridges.
Well, the beginning of Beetlejuice. I mean, that's how they die. I don't want to be a ghost.
That's how I think, but they're so cool.
It's a particularly creepy covered bridge too, because there's literally no windows on it at all. It's a tunnel, basically.
Yeah,
once you enter it, it's just there's nothing but the other end, and that's a perfect place for some scary experience like this to happen. Because the aliens knew they were like
Headless Horseman coming down there.
They were like, he's up there going to the bridge. Let's go. That's our cue. I think they were watching.
Look so pretty. Yeah.
Pigman's Bridge and stuff. And since we're actually talking about this bridge, if you go look at Thom Reed, because Thom Reed UFO Park, of course, has a Facebook page. They changed their banner picture to a picture of the covered bridge with a big Unsolved Mysteries logo on the side.
Oh, come on, you guys.
It's a Photoshop from so far away where it just looks fake and it is fake, and I don't know why. It's really funny. It looks like an ad is on the side of that bridge.
Yeah,
of course it's not.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to any of them if they happen to ever listen to this, but like, that's not classy. That's kind of tacky.
No, it's great. No, we're gonna put it on Instagram. I love that. They're
you could put like as seen on Unsolved Mysteries or something.
No, it's just a stretched out Unsolved Mysteries logo hanging on the bridge. Badly photoshopped. But the others involved in this, they only seem to have just a few minutes of this missing time, but not the Reeds. They stick to their story that we've heard before because they experience 3 hours of missing time. And then they know something is definitely wrong when they come to.
The next thing I remember is coming to in the front of the drugstore. My mother was in the driver's seat, and I was in the passenger seat, which was not the way it was when I turned the car off, obviously, because I had been driving.
When we were placed back in the vehicle, I believe it was meant for us not to ever think that this happened. That we just all passed out, we all fell asleep, because everything was supposed to be exactly the way it was 3 hours earlier. But the mistake was my mother and grandmother were reversed, and the ignition was off. My grandmother never drove.
Oh, see, the aliens thought they had it all figured out. They messed up the one tiny detail. Grandma doesn't drive. And we've talked about this before. And they did mention that Grandma got out of the car and freaked out and ran. That's how everyone woke up. Remember, Grandma freaked out?
Driving. Yeah.
She didn't.
I never drive. Get me out of here.
And you also notice, Brendan, what's missing from this is there is no description of any kind of aliens or what is actually happening or even a hypothesis about the aliens at all, which Unsolved Mysteries used to be known for, is they talking about grays and stuff. And as Thom Reed is talking, you can tell there's a lot more to his story that is not on there. When he's saying, well, when we came to, we thought they did this and they did this. Well, who's they? He never gets to mention that.
Well, that was what I was going to say that earlier, like to talk about the first episode that they did in this season. They didn't do a reenactment till 15 or 20 minutes into the episode. I was like, what happened to the reenactments? But their reenactments used to be kind of creepy too, because they would show the ghosts, so they would show the aliens, and they didn't show anything. But
it was people looking at lights mostly in this.
Yeah. And imagine being that alien too, that his one job was to make sure he put everything back perfectly, and he screwed up the one detail. Yeah.
Two aliens just trying, they have them unconscious, and they're like, "Wait, does she go here or does she go there?
Okay.
I can't remember."
Oh shit! They look the same.
I'm going to give the aliens a little bit of credit because Dre or Rob, one of you noted earlier that you thought the woman in this was Thom Reed's sister. That is actually his mother. So if this is Thom Reed's grandmother, if she looks as good as her mom does at that age, maybe you could not tell them apart because she has aged very well, and maybe the grandma had too.
Yeah.
Well, I have a small theory. I don't know if they really gave a shit that much about putting them exactly in order. If they dropped that other girl off at the lake, just anywhere, here you go. We don't know where you were.
Well, she was a party girl. They were probably like, "Oh, you were just drinking." They could they don't worry about
Their
that.
returns department is not good though. Whoever's running this operation, they're just dropping people out. Like Dre is saying, they're not keeping track of anything. They're just leaving people by the lake. They left that one girl by the lake. They're like, she could find her way home. She'll call an Uber or something. And then they're not even keeping track of where people are sitting inside the car. It's terrible.
Yeah, they could have at least been wearing different clothes. Okay, red shirt goes here, blue shirt goes here. No. But no, they didn't do anything like that. And
I will say, Thom Reed's story I know very, very well, and all of his other sightings are not brought up in here. Supposedly his whole family is a multi-generational abduction family where the mother and the grandmother and the kids have all been abducted. That's not even touched on in any of this. I do like the narrative that they are making it one event on one night in one area with multiple people. It makes it a lot more credible, but they did not get into a lot of Thom Reed stuff at all.
I don't know if maybe that's because they know that his story has been out and about more, and they figured they didn't want to.
Oh, I forgot it's famous. So I forgot how famous it was.
It's historic. Technically,
we didn't even remember the detail. It is, and it's gotten completely used. 2/3 of it, they're like, "Look, we need more if we're going to really do this."
I think they probably knew. There's only so much that they can cover in an episode and keep it, tangibly the narrative like tangible and keep it so that the story, it doesn't get too crazy and too bizarre. I think once you start throwing in, like, because he still has experiences, I think, Thom Reed. He talks about how he still gets abducted sometimes and that kind of stuff. If they threw that in there too, it might have been an overload of information for your average UFO.
You're right.
For your average
viewer.
Unsolved Mysteries
Your average
viewer.
Unsolved Mysteries Netflix viewer, yeah.
Yeah. I guess there's a point there. You know, they're trying to change up their... And this is what, episode 4 or something? They could still be getting their bearings, trying to figure out what the audience wants.
I mean, they put out 6 and we get 1 UFO, and they did a good job with it. I want to say I believe Thom Reed more watching this because of the correlations that are happening with these other things happening. I believe his story more. I concede, yes, this is famous. Your UFO park is fine. I'm not gonna try to make light of it like I did last time we did this. Yes, you're famous. Congratulations.
Somebody tried to call out them for not showing enough alien stories in this first packet of episodes they released. And I think one of their producers' response was just like, there's too many phone cameras nowadays, and it's too easy to say that things are fake. It's too easy to disprove things.
They need to find those credible witnesses.
They could put Calvin Parker on here too.
I feel like his story would be great done through.
But they're probably trying to space
lens.
it out, keep things varied so it's not... So people who are new to it and just checking out the most recent episodes aren't like, oh, this is a show about aliens.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of shows about aliens if you want to go watch that.
And then a lot of them don't get taken seriously. So I think that they're doing a pretty good job sticking with like the flag.
They're keeping it fresh because they got one over on the Unbelievers. We thought we'd do all about this Reed thing. We don't know anything, as we found out.
We didn't know shit. Yeah, this is all brand new.
Yeah, it is. So let's get back into one of the things we didn't know, and that is Jane Green, and she's the woman who saw that object while she was driving with her friend. She reports this story to the local radio station, but they don't take her seriously at first. But then the calls start coming in, and here's what Thom Reed has to say about it.
Tom J., who was the radio personality for WSBS Radio, actually heard the calls coming in over his ham radio, and there were so many of them that he actually had called the police department to see if they were hearing this as well, got on the air and was asking if anyone saw this. Where was it? Does anyone know where it is? From Pittsfield to Stockbridge to Lenox to Egremont to Sheffield to Canaan, Connecticut. The calls were coming in from a multitude of towns by groups of people that in many cases had never met each other before.
Yeah, that is a lot of places. And all these calls, it sounds like one of the biggest mass sightings in history, yet no one really gives it a lot of props, I think, except us and Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, a flap that nobody gave a shit about or cared to mention before. Like, what the hell, you guys? It's not like UFO stories are like a new thing. They could have totally piped up over the past 50 years.
Yeah, that's the other part about it, where it's like, well, should we know more? It's been 50 years,
I'm surprised this hasn't gotten the Hollywood treatment, this whole story, because it's one of those,
I'm sure.
It's one of those things, like, you know how the Kentucky Goblins, it fits into like a television narrative for a TV movie or, a TV show. This whole thing would be a great movie. I'd love to watch a movie about a town, like a bunch of people being abducted in a town. It would be cool.
Yeah,
it's a really cool
I'm glad
story.
that it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Now would be a good time.
He's getting there. Oh, yeah, and Thom Reed is going to be rolling in it. Do we want that? Come on. We want Calvin Parker.
I kind of do.
We want Calvin Parker to go Hollywood before time.
Yeah, but the Pascagoula thing is so much like more short. Like, there's not a whole lot of dough to stretch out there. But with this, we've got multiple people now. We've got multiple characters. It just seems like you could stretch a lot more into like a 2-hour thing versus the Pascagoula thing.
Yeah, this could be a good Clay Turner movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
good one, Brendan.
Yeah, he can do this one. We'll have Spielberg do the Calvin Parker one. But with all these sightings, and calls to authorities and radio DJs, man, there has to be some evidence somewhere that can back up what was happening that night. And Unsolved Mysteries attempts to do that. First, by talking to a man named Jesse Stewart. He is the current brand manager of WSBS Radio, the same radio station that reported it at the time, and here is what he had to say.
In 1969, I wasn't even thought of yet. I was born in 1983. Yeah, legend has it that strange occurrence that took place in September of 1969 was a UFO sighting. I think it's unlikely that if you have all these people in this area, different states, different part of the county that are seeing it, I can't imagine they're making it up or lying about it. Back then, the technology was much different than today. You record a newscast, and when you're done with that newscast, you don't really think about saving it. The next day or 2 days after, that news story is gone and erased with the current news story. I wish I still had access to those tapes in 1969, not just for the radio station and for us having it, but just wish I could provide people with it and say, you know, just to have a tangible object for people, because I know it's such a sought-after item, and it's unfortunate we don't have it, but I really wish we did.
Okay, why are you on this show? Why was this guy on Unsolved Mysteries? He had nothing. He wasn't even alive when it happened. We know, I mean, we have to know at this point, unless it's a huge story, that radio stations from small towns in the 1960s are keeping their radio archive, especially when you're looking for UFO stories 50 years later.
Well, I mean, you would think, though, that, hey, this is not your everyday run-of-the-mill news segment that happened. This had fucking UFOs. Maybe we should make a copy of it. Maybe.
No, they did have the donut roast beef story. They had that saved. They knew people were talking about that.
You gotta remember,
keep that one.
It's 1969. Like, radio technology back then, making a copy of something, like...
you could so make a copy in 69.
Their tape reels were huge.
Recording this. They're not recording this for anything.
Well, they said it was erased for the next one to go over. So if it was if it was recorded to begin with and then they erased it, that means that they had something to make a copy of.
Would you imagine listening to that Boring Towns radio,
yes,
like 24 hours a day of that? Yeah, no.
I want to hear everyone's diets, Russ. You don't understand.
Yeah, breaking news. Grandma Warner switched to chicken salad. I don't know what they were doing there.
Grandma Warner. No, I get it. I mean, I do. I do understand that, especially they weren't really taking it all that seriously. Their WSBS, like, in my mind, is just like shit bullshit. They're not going to be. Why would they hold on to that? So sure.
Why would Andy? So the radio station thing, records, nothing there. But what about the police records? Because they had to write things down. Mm-hmm. These should be readily available. So they go talk to Chief William Walsh of the Great Barrington Police Department, and here is what he found for the evening of the flying turtle shell.
And fortunately, we do have them from 1969. I did find that day there's very little activity on there. It's basically one page. Then the evening shift, which is 4 to midnight, which I believe is when this incident happened, there's a young lady from the day shift turned up and was found, which was good. There's a report from a gentleman reporting trash and beer cans thrown on his lawn. He was upset about that and reported it to the police department. And actually, that was it, you know. When I went looking for this, I thought maybe there'd be, you know, things on there. And I was very surprised that there isn't. You know, I think the jury's out, as we say in my business. I think the jury's out, at least in my mind it is, in terms of exactly what it was or what happened.
Hey, look, those beer cans are a problem, and I can understand the police getting involved. We can know about 50-year-old beer cans in someone's yard, but not mass UFO sightings seen by dozens and abducted by many.
Yeah, really. That is surprising that, again, all of this shit happened and then nobody's remembering anything or bringing it up until now.
That's where it falls. I want to believe all these people, but there seems to be nothing at the time except people's word. And these people don't even want to get on camera together and look each other in the eye and be like, yes, this all happened to us on this night. It's very fragmented. It's not documented.
I'll play devil's advocate here and say maybe there's no reports because people were scared to report it. They didn't want to be thought of as crazy or, you know, called stupid.
But they all called into the radio station.
I mean, a couple people called in. They said that there was a few calls into the radio station. I don't like this police officer's tone, though. I don't know. He's a little too matter of fact. I don't like this guy.
Well, we know that the police in that area already probably threw that guy's benches from his UFO park in the pond. They don't like this already. They could have burned those records at the same time. They could have been going against him. We know authority is not on Thom Reed's side. We understand that, Thom Reed.
Probably in most cases, you know, you're right, Rob, though, like, there are a lot of people who are afraid to come forward, but I also have a feeling that maybe if people did come forward, like kind of what Russ was saying, they'd be like, yeah, whatever, this guy's crazy, and just crumple it up and throw it in the trash. That's easy to just get rid of it.
When it was going on in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, though, like that was why it was so credible, is because these people didn't talk about this kind of stuff. And it's like they actually have records of it because they wrote about it all the time in the paper the whole year it was going on. But that's why it was a credible thing, because so many different people described the same thing. But for them to have no record, it's like it is kind of odd.
Yeah.
And you've
Like
been
the
in the
sheer
Mothman.
amounts.
You've been in the Mothman Museum, Brendan. You see how many newspaper clippings from all over were
all the
about
time.
that. That's what that museum is all about. It's the documentation of a strange event.
You got to remember, though, this is the government we're talking about. You can't trust the government. They could cover shit up. They can make reports disappear if they want to.
Yeah.
We've seen it. They've done it about things that are way more important than this. At least in my eyes, things that are serious, like real issues, they've been able to cover up. Why would they not be able to just make these reports disappear if they wanted to?
You're right. And then this is also a small town, but it was also spread over so many. Remember, they were talking about all these different towns that spread into other states even. And these are like usually small towns that had to go into each and every one of those. Whereas when it's a big thing that happens, then the Men in Black show up or whatever, and they try to shut it all down. But here's these people freely talking about it on Netflix.
Now. All right. No radio, no police records, fine. But there has to be newspaper reports. Even if it's just like a skeptical debunking story, the Mothman Museum is full of newspaper clippings. So you have to think that a small town like this that doesn't have that much excitement going on besides diets and donuts. So they have a historian named Gary LaVille to search the archives. And here's what he finds.
I started with the Berkshire Eagle, which is the daily paper here, to see if I could find any reference to it. September 2nd was the day I started, because that was the day after the initial abductions, if you will. And I ran through for about a whole month and didn't find any reference in the Berkshire Eagle to any sightings. I've thought a lot about how come this didn't get reported, and I suspect that people just thought that it was a joke or a scam. I also talked to the former editor of a weekly paper in Great Barrington, and he kind of laughed and he says, "Oh yeah, I remember that, but I thought it was a bunch of hooey, so I didn't put anything in the paper."
It's a weird thing. Even if it is hooey, you would want to say, "Hey, look at this hooey over here." But there is nothing.
Hey guys, hooey or nah?
Yeah, put it in their poll or something. But that's why I've always questioned the famous Reed case too, because there is no documentation of the time of this ever happening to anybody.
Nobody wants to be accountable for anything. Nobody wants.
It is scary to be the first to speak up. Like I am often on Rob's side with that whole thing of like, well, I don't want anyone to think that I'm crazy, but he doesn't seem to give a shit now, which is good.
No. He stood up for a long time. He kept these claims going through school. A lot of them did. A lot of them. They claim in this that they've stuck to their guns for years about this. I don't know. Maybe documented proof is overrated. What do I know? But simply being on Unsolved Mysteries is all the proof that some people are going to need. And one person who does believe is a man named Eddie Galata. Do you remember this guy in this? He was the owner of Galata's gas station. And he isn't really involved in any of the sightings at all, but he's just a lovable kook.
I like that guy.
And I thought he was very entertaining. So let's hear from Eddie Galata.
I'm not sure the exact day, but it was right after it happened. And people started coming in reporting it to my father, who was chief of police at the time in Sheffield. They'd say they saw a flying object in the sky that wasn't an airplane. And it looked totally different and was lit up, and they were round and lit up in silver. And they were going slow and landing in the fields out here. It's all farm fields over here by the road, all the way down into Connecticut. Cornfields, hay fields, and they were landing in those fields and taking off, and that's what people saw.
Yeah, so this guy's father was the chief of police. He's saying that people are reporting it. Still, no records at all of it happening.
Yep, that sounds about right. Now that we've kind of gone over the whys, like, well, why wouldn't they keep a record? It's like because they didn't think that it was important because they didn't believe the people.
He said fields a lot, didn't he?
Yeah,
hay
so
fields,
many
cornfields, fields, guardian fields.
I like there's a lot of different fields in this area.
A field of
this
fields.
Field, that field, yeah, the UFO field, the turtle
field
field.
of dreams.
I love how they just interviewed him in mobile. Also, like he couldn't even get a break for 5 minutes to go in the outside and talk about this. He literally was like stepped away from his job at the register for 2 seconds to talk to them.
Who are you going to get to manage the cash register while you're gone? You got to stand by your till.
I guess you're right.
I actually appreciated seeing him in his element. He was showing off photos of his dad. You got
like, we're not gonna set up a meeting outside once you're free from work. Like, no, we're gonna bug you at work.
I think he just met that guy when they got gas. He was like, "Why are you guys in town?" He was like, "Oh, we're on Unsolved Mysteries." Like, "Hey, talk to me. I know. My dad was chief of police. And
I can solve it." Yeah,
I like he looks like a character from Bob's Burgers. Also, he looks like a cartoon character. This guy, I love him.
And
I liked him a lot.
So yeah, we'll hear more from Eddie Galata later. But the one person I really felt for on this, it was that Tommy Warner, the guy who was just running in place and he got abducted. He was back in 7 minutes. That event, it really affected his young life, as we're going to hear now.
If you keep telling the story, after a while, you're not going to have any friends. You scare the hell out of everybody. Especially as a teenager and young adult. I mean, people they don't want to hear it. It's too scary. Through high school, I didn't date girls. No one. It was like I was the Black Plague or something. It was nothing that was ever said, but I knew it. Because people don't have the answers for something. They have to blame it on something. It's, your imagination or whatever. Eventually, I had to paint it. I just had to paint as close as I could to that night. I never intended to show this painting. I never intended to tell my story. I think it was kind of therapy doing that painting for me. And I suppose I just have that there to hold fast to that night and remember, we're not alone. And it's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, so he paints it almost like a David Huggins, but his is just him as a boy standing underneath a UFO with a beam. And you can hear it in his voice, having this stigma in this small town, that is terrible, because they show pictures of him as a young guy. He is not bad looking. And he's like, well, of course girls won't date me. I'm the Black Plague because of this. So people knew about this story.
I had to say, though, like, hearing it back, because at first, when I watched it, I really did feel for him, because, like you said, you're seeing visuals of him, you're seeing photos. I'm like, yeah, he's cute. There's no way that he would just be completely avoided like the plague, but it's like, maybe it was something else. And he says, of course, when you go through something like this, they're going to blame it on something else, your imagination. I'm like, well, maybe you're blaming the fact that girls weren't touching you on aliens. Maybe it was something else.
Maybe you're freaked out maybe you're freaked out by girls screaming at you to stay in the lines all the time.
Maybe you just like demand girls to scream at you to stay in the lines, and they're just not into that.
My medium is Crayola, honey.
Maybe it's that weird thing that you do where you run in place all the time. It's really strange.
Oh, I feel so bad, because I really do feel bad for him.
Alien boy.
Yeah.
Alien.
Yeah, there might be a lot more
boy.
going on. Yeah, there was,
That's a perfect example, though, why people wouldn't speak up. No girls, like, throughout high school,
what?
all because the alien? That sucks, man.
This might be telling too much about me and my past, but that's totally the person I would have talked to.
Okay.
Because I was very much like an outsider. I was like, okay, like, other people who weren't like me, it'd be like, okay, they're gonna be my friend. They usually had to approach me because I was too shy.
You would think there were cool people in town. That other girl was always sneaking cigarettes and stuff. She sounded cool.
Sneaking it from their mom. It's not like, when she said they were stealing cigarettes, I thought that they were such edgy 12, 13-year-olds. They were stealing them from the store, but they were just stealing them from their mom's purse.
Yeah, you grab the pack out of your dad's car or something.
And then you go and share one cigarette together. So cool.
Different time.
Yeah.
But Tommy Warner, he wasn't the only one receiving backlash for coming forward. Listen to how the Reed family got treated.
Thomas was the most vocal of all of us. It's the only reason we're having this conversation is because he sticks to his guns about things. Truth is truth, and truth will come out every time.
We still had to live here. We still had to face everybody during the day. And it just made it tough. We used to get followed home down this road by a pickup truck.
They would tailgate me in a car as I was driving home. One followed me all the way up the driveway one time. I'll never forget that. I couldn't believe that.
There's one guy jumped up on a table once and exposed himself and said, well, if you want to see something out of this world, Nancy, I'll show you something out of this world. And I mean, it got that foul,
All right, that is crazy. What is wrong with these Massachusetts pervs? This family had to move away.
One was reportedly porky pigging.
Why would they do that? And if seeing Nancy Reed in this, and she didn't say it, but he did, play soundboard 6, seeing a guy jump on a table saying this.
Well, if you want to see something out of this world, Nancy, I'll show you something out of this world. And
disgusting.
Oh, man.
Well, he shouldn't have been describing rods of light before. Then they wouldn't have seen something.
That you can't blame the victim.
I was about to say, Brendan, I can't believe you.
Joking. It was jokes.
Nah, Brendan would love to see the rods, and he would love to see something out of this world. If any of you care to show him, I'm sure he'd love it. But it's true. No, we know you're joking. It's true though. It's so messed up. I have a feeling that she wouldn't even have needed to be making these claims for some creep like that. He was waiting for an opportunity of any kind.
Yeah, but hearing about the harassment just because you're coming forward about UFO events, they do move away. This was their, we talked about this last time, but this was their, and he mentioned earlier, this was their Norman Rockwell. This was their dream scenario where the mom had taken the kids, single mom with grandma, she gets a horse farm, she buys a restaurant, all ends up having to be taken away because of this event. I didn't clip it, but Thomas Reed did say their Norman Rockwell turned into a Salvador Dali, and I did think that was he was back pocketing that one. After he said that, I play Soundboard 6. I was just like,
well, if you want to see something out of this world, Nancy, I'll show you something out of this world. And
I don't know what that has to do with it.
And there's something about the cadence, how that's delivered, that reminds me of like, all right, okay, Diane, that's fine, we're coming over.
Okay, Diane, that's fine.
Yeah, that's the other end of that conversation.
All right, Diane, we're going to show you
weird.
something.
It's kind of a weird thing to happen, though. Like, I've never heard of somebody who said that they saw UFOs, had people expose themselves. I mean, that is
the mental image of it. Check this out. Oh, you want to see something out of this world? It's like, no, we did. No, go away.
You want to see a weird-looking alien? Here you go, Nancy. I've got a weird-looking alien for you right here.
What kind of person hates you or is such a UFO hater that they're going to stalk people and, like, physically abuse people over a UFO? It's ridiculous. It's like hazing and bullying on another level.
The part that she was followed home is super weird, because I don't think it's the same guy who flashed himself. Or flash.
There's a lot of stuff going on. But we've heard a lot of cases of people, receiving backlash for UFO sightings, and
but they
never anything like this.
That's
I think
it's because it's a small town, and they just really didn't have shit else better to do.
Yeah, that guy would be on Twitter now, and he would just get roasted.
Oh, he'd
get
lambasted.
Yeah, he'd be out of there.
He would be canceled. That guy would get canceled.
Oh, so yeah, he'd be throwing pitchforks out. There's no way that would be okay. But people do it anyway still, even on Twitter. They still don't give a shit, and they'll do that.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
We just canceled you. But they check in with that gas station guy that we liked, that Eddie Gallardo, who he actually sounds like a true believer, and he chimes in on, of all things, the Tom DeLonge Air Force video, the famous Tic Tac. This seems to be making it into anything UFO related nowadays. Let's hear Eddie Gallardo talk about it.
There was 2 planes flying that were 100 feet apart, 2 jets flying, and an object flew right between them at a very high speed. It was in the Berkshire Eagle yesterday, and this is the military reporting this. Those guys are smart. They know what's going on. They're not going to make this up. Come on, something's going on. Why isn't that coming out? Why isn't it being more publicized? I guess it is. Right now, it's starting to be. And it's about darn time. But if the military's seeing it, it's happening. Hello?
Yeah.
I believe it.
I love how he answers his own question there. He's like, I'm looking in the paper here. I'm seeing that the military seeing these things. How come nobody's... Oh, wait. Actually, I guess they are talking about it. Oh, yeah, it's part of the paper. This is great.
You remembered he was talking to a giant camera mid-sentence.
He talks like I talk. Like that's how I end up rambling on. It's like, well, I guess they are now.
Well,
hello.
So, are you saying you sound like Play Soundboard 7? This is Drea talking about Tom DeLonge.
I believe it.
Whoa.
Sounds like Brody Stevens too. Believe it.
Hello, McFly.
Enjoy it. Yeah. I really, that's why I like him so much.
I am glad I'm glad the production company had to fill up at that particular gas station, and Eddie Gallardo is now Unbeliever All-Star just for saying,
hello, I believe it.
I love it. And we've come to the end of this, but before we wrap up, here is a final statement from Jane Green and the famous Thom Reed.
And when this happens, there is no doubt. I have no reason to, make anything up. I'm 85 years old, and this is not something that I expected to do or ever talked about. It's real. It's for real. People have got to understand that.
Who the hell are they to question me? I passed a polygraph test. My word is my bond. I don't break it for anybody. I wear who I am on my sleeve. You got something to say? Say it. I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you think. I was there. I was there.
I think Thom Reed wants to fight us. I'm on his side, though.
Dude,
I believe him. Hello?
I will fight with you, dude.
I believe it. Thom Reed got a little aggressive at the end there.
Very defensive.
I mean, he
Very
deserves
defensive.
to, especially with the way his mother was treated. He deserves to be defensive.
You're right.
He should be.
You're right.
Yeah, he must have filmed that right after he talked about that guy's wiener, and it got him extra mad. He's like, all right, look, enough of this.
Worked up.
Oh, they
He
probably
was worked
provoked
up.
him, too. You know, when TV people, like, they're just like, all right, how did that make you feel? And what are you going to do about it now? What would you like to say to these people? And then they got him all fired up.
This is his big moment. He really is the famous Reed now. He did it. He's got on there. His UFO park is back. Last time we talked, his UFO park was thrown in the city dump. I don't know what they did with it, but it's all back. He's got new benches, new lights, a new thing. We're going to talk to an unbeliever soon. Unbeliever, the Machinist, went out there and did a little video there. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
But before we go, I want to talk about the things they didn't mention. The fact that Thom Reed has a brother named Matt. They didn't mention Matt at all. Matt is very involved in all of Thom Reed's story. They cited UFOs in 1966 and 1967. They even saw them in their house. They thought they were ghosts. What? And when they were abducted in 1967 and 69, they described the aliens that abducted them as insect aliens with hands, with human hands.
No.
Which
That's
was
the
a
worst.
strange, and you couldn't really categorize the aliens he was describing.
What the fuck?
They were strange human-alien hybrids. They were 3 to 5 feet tall. There was no mention of that or of Granny running in the road.
Half human, half like fucking ugly motherfuckers.
It was like half human, half alien hands, half insect. But they didn't talk about the other encounter that the brother Matt had. On March 30th, 2009, he was abducted from his truck. I don't know if you remember the story. Matt was watching the movie Watchmen in a not at all gay way with a friend. And then afterwards, he sees an orange ball of light and he crashes his car and he's abducted again. None of this is mentioned, the multi-generational, multi-time frame abductions happening at all. A lot left out, but Brendan Shea, do you have any final thoughts on the Berkshire/Sheffield/famous Reed UFO incident?
I believe it. I believe that all these people did experience something, and I mean, it's kind of goes along with a lot of other stories. People have been abducted several times. The older they get, from the time they're kids to adults, and I guess sometimes the aliens are just sick of them and say, "We're moving on to somebody else." But it's an incredible story.
Okay, what about you, Drea?
Yeah, same thing, 1,000%. I believe all of these people, especially when you get to see some of their interviews on camera. That one lady, the first one who speaks, you could see it in her hands, like she's just like constantly doing kind of like the self-soothing hand motion and everything.
Jane
Her body
Reed.
language, yes, totally believable. And yeah, I have no reason not to believe these people and to stick to their stories for this long. Absolutely.
All right, what about you, Rob? What do you think about the Reed incident now?
I agree with what everybody said, pretty much. I think that all these people seem to be telling the truth. I've been watching a lot of body language videos on YouTube, and all of the body language that these people seem to exhibit while they're telling these stories seems very credible. And I don't know, the story's great. And through the lens of Unsolved Mysteries, could it get any better? I mean, it was awesome.
Not
man.
much.
It was
man.
awesome.
I don't think so.
Even FBI Rob approves now.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Even Robert Stackless, this has been it was an amazing rendition that I would forget it was Unsolved Mysteries, but I'm glad that it is Unsolved Mysteries.
I am too, and yes, I will say, I'm still a little skeptical of it, especially knowing the full breadth of the whole Reed thing, and them not bringing any evidence forward. I don't know. They brought on half the new people they brought on are kind of kooky. I'm just gonna say it. They are. Their stories are believable, but they're kind of kooks. And I know we are, and I'm not going to believe anything you guys tell me. So
You're a nut.
And I do believe it more than I did before. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's ticked up a little bit. I'm not going to say either way, but I will say that I do like how they're doing Unsolved Mysteries. This is great. Give us more. I don't know, even if you pick a host, it's fine. You can pick a host. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll do that. Let's get out of here. That's it for Berkshire Chef Fire Famous Reed UFOs 2020. Oh, Rob's getting into it. Yes, that's a Sheffield song, bringing it back to our first coverage of the Reeds. And I want to welcome, I promised I would talk to someone who knows a lot about this too. So I want to welcome the Machinist back to the show. How you doing, Machinist?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for coming on. We just talked all about Unsolved Mysteries and the Reeds. And of course, I'm playing the Sheffield song to bring it back to the fact that this was called the Sheffield incident. Now it's Berkshire's UFO, which is always going to be known by that.
Like,
so what do you think?
Didn't find
what
the
did
Berkshire song? Yeah.
There is no, I know, I'm keeping it real, and I think Mike wants to too. So what did you think of the Unsolved Mysteries episode? Because you know a lot about this area. You live up there.
Yeah, well, like, what was up with Tommy Warner?
He likes to run in place.
He also, like, don't talk to my kids about this who go to this school, and don't talk to my wife who works over there at the library, and she's probably there Monday through Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
he gave so much information.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I live here. My wife works at this address. I live here. Leave us alone about this, but I'm on TV talking about it.
Why would I want you to come and harass them at this address at this time to this time?
I have heard that giving extra information like that is a sign of lying. Like when you give too much information, that's like a sign that you're fibbing.
FBI Rob.
But yeah,
I do that a lot.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding.
I gotta watch what I'm doing around this guy now.
Well, maybe he knows enough to actually throw them. Maybe he's giving false leads. He's like, my wife is not a librarian.
Disinformation agent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a pharmacist.
So Machinist, you, of course, you made a great video where you walked around the Thomas Reed Park, the newly reconstructed Thom Reed UFO Park. Thom Reed has always made this case just about him. Even the park isn't about his family or his brother who went to go see Watchmen. It's just about him. It's always been all about him. What did you think of? He's sharing the stage now. What do you think about that?
And I feel he didn't even get a chance to mention his UFO park during it. Like,
no,
they had that aerial shot of the bridge and everything like that. You can see the couple of the benches there, but you couldn't. You didn't get a chance to talk about it because
it seemed like they were legally not allowed to mention it. Almost,
it's something, you know.
I have to wonder if, like, maybe he did talk a lot about it and they just cut all of it out.
They must have cut a lot of it out because they didn't mention his horse riding or.
Nothing. The older events happening, the ghosts in the stairs, the brother in 2009, none of that was mentioned because he even says in this, he has the gall, Machinist, to say, I'm never looking for fame or fortune. I just want to tell my story. It's like, you made a UFO park named after yourself. You were looking for the most fame in all of this.
Exactly. He said it as he's sitting in the middle of his bridge. Like,
yes. That he was hoping would probably be mentioned in the show.
Yeah. Oh, we played that ending where he was like, I will fight you. You tell me I'm a liar. Yeah, that he was so sympathetic up till that. He got very defensive. But also, play the sound clip, Rob, because remember that guy jumped on the table, Machinist, and he said,
if you want to see something out of this world, Nancy, I'll show you something out of this world. And
the guy who exposed himself.
I do believe that actually happened, and I believe that he probably was, and his brother were ridiculed to be out of school, because if you saw that picture of him with that trench coat on or that thing up, he looked insufferable. I'm sure he was really annoying talking about.
You would think that was the kid that girls avoided like the plague. But it was not even the same Tom. I would have talked with the other Tom, maybe not that Tom.
And I got to ask you, Mac, what do you think about them introducing him? We didn't mention this in the episode, but everyone's given a profession. They just call him an entrepreneur. But we know he runs a place called Miami Modeling Agency. He's kind of an older hornball dude. He's got models and CSI. You look at his credits on IMDb, and it's like models in this, and he's just a model guy. Like, he runs a Miami modeling agency.
Exactly.
He's just a model guy.
How far do you live from where this all went down, Matt?
I live traveling to it. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. It's on a toll road, so you have to kind of weasel your way through there. But the first time I actually went, the GPS brought me to the actual farmhouse instead of the bridge.
No shit.
So I actually drove down that road that he was talking about. That infamous road that they were on their station wagon on. It's something to see.
Was it creepy?
Do you get vibes there? Because I know some places you get vibes from it, high strangeness vibes.
Yeah, well, I didn't get too much vibes from that place. When I went to go see the Betty and Barney Hill monument thing up in New Hampshire, you definitely feel something up there. Probably because of the elevation or whatever. But this place, it just feels like a New England farmhouse and typical woods.
Nice and quaint.
Exactly. And also that river, I don't know, maybe back in 69 or whatever, there's no way anything was submerged in that. I don't understand how they
it looks like a creek. It does.
It's so low. There's nothing to it. So maybe they built a dam at some point way back, but it was never.
It could have
deep
changed.
enough.
I mean, the LA River is nothing but a trickle. Sometimes literally no moisture whatsoever.
Well, yeah, like water levels do variate. There's different high tides. Like over years, the tide can change in certain places. Who knows? There's a possibility. But I like what you're saying though. That it is just a very shallow river.
I can agree with like the fact that you went there and you like felt nothing, but when you went to the other monuments, like you could feel a difference.
Yeah, you can definitely feel something other places, but this place just feels forced,
Yeah, very a lot of History Channel stuff adorns it now. They've gotten their benches back. They've got their solar lights. They've got a new plaque, not as great. You do a great walkthrough video of the whole thing, and you're very much a good friend of Thom Reed, because one of your trips there, the Mechanists took pictures of people just moving stuff around in the park, which you're not supposed to do, just moving things as they saw fit, and you reported it to Thom Reed. Why don't you tell me about that?
Well, yeah, I let him know. It happened as I was leaving. These two women came down in a golf cart. So I only took a picture because I assumed that they worked there. So I just wanted to say, oh, look at, they're moving the benches kind of on a lark. So then I was just taking a picture. I would have taken a video if I'd known that they weren't supposed to be doing that. But then I posted it on the Thom Reed UFO
model group
Facebook page. Yeah,
the model group.
And then he's like, "Oh, they shouldn't have been doing that." And then we had a little back and forth. I gave him the pictures and stuff.
Yeah, he immediately put a post like, giant reward, anyone who knows these people, why are they moving my stuff around? This is my monument. He fought for it for years.
Shit, I would have gone back over there, found out who they were for that reward.
He's not there. He's in Miami with his models. He can go there and film things. He definitely filmed all of Unsolved Mysteries there, but there's no one trace of his UFO park benches or anything there.
The benches are in a shot. I saw them in a shot, an aerial shot. You can see them. They're down there.
You can see the lights there too. But
what was this on Google Maps? Like what?
No, that's what it looked like in Unsolved Mysteries. They do an aerial shot of the bridge, and you can see the two benches. You can.
All right. Because I was going to say
he made a big deal about the benches being there, bolted down. There's no way they had to really work to do it. These two women, they just picked them up gingerly, moved them over, took the other one, moved it over. I don't know what he was talking about. They weren't bolted down.
See, that's disappointing because, like we just said, I totally believe him in his stories. Like, why all the bravado about this park and like whether or not it's severely bolted down or not?
Exactly. What the little details that he gets wrong and he exaggerates about, but he expects us to believe the big part of the story. It's like
right.
Why?
He left a lot of the questionable stuff out, and no mention of the brother at all in this.
Nothing
the brother, nothing. And his story was the most compelling, but because he had it happen again in 2009, like 40 years later too.
I have to wonder if that's something about the brother just really not wanting to be like at all having any kind of spotlight on him or something. Like he's like, please don't tell anybody. That's the only thing I can think of for that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a book. I don't know when it came out. It's the Alien Abduction Files, like the most startling cases, like alien contact or whatever. But they go into a lot of depth about the whole UFO thing down in Sheffield. It didn't just happen once. It happened like 3 times from in September up until October. They were, quote unquote, visited or they had encounters because heaven forbid you use the word abduction.
Yeah, right. I was touched.
Exactly. They left so much of it out of their official stories. This is just all watered down. They found these two people, this Tommy Warner and the old lady that somehow never told their story before.
Right. Yeah, that was the other thing. And they go through all the evidence that it doesn't exist, and they never recreated any aliens. I'm starting to get let down with Unsolved Mysteries. You could have made an insect that had hands. Remember the description? They were 3 to 5 feet tall, insects with hands.
That's what
we want to see
less
that.
Scary.
That's our Unsolved Mysteries. We want to see
the real game changer, though, was Mother Reed. The Mother Reed telling her story, seeing her side of the story.
The
and
Reed
seeing,
Mama.
seeing the way that she tells it, I feel like it added a layer of credibility to it for me that made it more believable, because I do believe that lady. I think that what she's saying sounds true.
Yeah, what you were saying before about the body language and stuff, it's like that's just one more sample that we could debunk, but because we had another witness, we got to look through that and see, like, is this person seeming like they're bullshit, or do they seem kind of credible? And
she said the truth. She did. She said the truth comes out every time. So
she does. She only told that a limited part of her story, because she also had encounters at her house where the aliens, or the visitors, they surrounded her in bed.
The grandmother as well. Remember?
Yeah. So
this was the multi-generational story. It was supposed to be a multi-generational story about
harassment. It sounds like, but yeah.
Play soundboard 5. Mackinus, I hope you heard when the Reed got into this.
Oh, jeez.
It fired these rods of light.
Yeah, we got rods in the Reeds
again. Yeah, I immediately
again.
thought of you when that happened.
Oh, Brendan said the same thing, and that makes me so happy.
We all did. Yeah, I think
a lot of people.
When I heard that too.
I think honestly, probably a lot of people are going to think of you when they hear that, Rod.
Every time that they hear the word rod, now there's like an alert out for you.
Yeah, but there's a Reed talking about a rod. This was a moment. I think we mentioned it because we had just on the rods before the first time we did this. Now they are connected. Out of the Reed's mouth comes rods.
Oh, jeez. so good with the wording.
Yeah. So, Mackinus, what's your final thoughts on this whole new addendum to the famous Sheffield, no longer Sheffield, now the Berkshires UFO tale?
Yeah, without the addition of these other two people, I really believed there was an exhaust leak in that old hatchback or whatever they called it.
The Volkswagen or the station wagon. Right?
Station wagon, yeah, I want to see Volkswagen too. the old station wagon, and they all got carbon monoxide, and they ended up switching seats, and they passed out for 3 hours. But now with these other people, I really don't know. It seems like maybe something did happen. There was definitely some bright lights out there, and who knows what that means.
Means aliens.
Lights can happen everywhere.
As Hynek would say, there's probably swamp gas, because it's a swampy area, so I'm sure swamp gas ignited, and I don't know.
Yeah, it blew the mom and grandma into different seats. That's what
I do like that. One person did actually mention swamp gas in this. We didn't cut it. One of the ladies went to the radio station, and the guy said, yeah, it's probably swamp gas. So I guess that's the thoughts in Massachusetts. I want to say thanks so much, Mackinus, for coming on and chiming in. You are definitely the champion of the Reeds as far as I'm concerned.
Down there 3 times, so I hope I know something.
You do. You certainly do. Thank you so much, Mackinus, man. But we've got time for one more thing. What is that, Brendan?
Poll results.
This week's poll, which found footage film do you want to see? And the choices were the Phoenix Tapes 97, the Phoenix Incident, Phoenix Forgotten, Jake Paul videos, and others. I'm going to ask you, Brendan Shea, what do you think the Unbelievers said?
Jake Paul videos.
All right, what about you, Drea?
Jake Paul videos.
Oh, come on. Rob?
Phoenix Tapes 97 is the best one of all of them. We all know that. Come on.
All right, you guys are all wrong with
14.29%
of the vote. The Phoenix Incident is what people want to see. Jake Paul videos was second place. Rob, you lost. And of course, and actually, we will watch that as movie night. Movie night this week will be Phoenix Incident. We'll figure out a way to do that,
See,
right,
which
Rob?
one is that? I can't even keep them all straight.
It's the one with the trailer. It's the one with the trailer.
They all had trailers.
It's the one with the bros. They go in the desert. They get lost.
Desert. Aliens.
Oh, why didn't you say so? The found footage one with the bros in the desert in the trailer. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, of course, there are others. Which found footage film do you want to see? Not another Turner not-so-classic movie. Signed Spermy Paracox. Very good. Oh, give me a Turner.
I think that the video is fake.
Thank you, Fermi Paracox. What found footage film do you want to see? It would be really cool if they found the footage of Epstein's cell, but someone would come to my house and kick my ass. Signed, Friendly Weatherman. You are definitely right, because if you find that Epstein tape or that Giselle tape, someone's going to...
I will personally come to your house and kick your ass.
Kick your ass.
They will. Well, thank you so much. One of our favorites, the...
Don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm the weatherman.
What found footage film do you want to see? Michael Jackson's ghost busting on his wife. Just to clarify, why would you want to put that on your face? Signed Wombat Preservationist. I don't know. Michael Jackson's ghost? I don't want to think about that.
Oh, man.
And just to clarify, Dave, about why you'd want to put it on your face.
Thank you, Wombat Preservationist. What found footage film do you want to see? I found footage once. Can't look at my parents the same ever since. Signed Dern Fishing Sneakers Salesman. Very good. Oh, I don't like that, but I'm glad you got some.
Brought some new fishing sneakers.
Dern Fishing Sneakers Salesman. You're in the lead. What found footage film do you want to see? The Blair Witch XXX. Signed Jack Sasquatch.
Dang.
All right. It's going on the list.
I think we got one.
Can you all scream like a witch?
Like the Blair Witch.
Dang.
Oh,
God,
XXX.
it's got screaming in it too. Jeez.
What found footage film do you want to see? The one where you slap your ass cheeks together. What happened? Signed Unbeliever Carol. Unbeliever Carol. New bit, new thing. She's got it.
Every week.
Pouring his ass stuck out. I seen his ass.
Yes. Thank you so much, Unbeliever Carol. What happened? It's somewhere in there. We'll put it in.
What happened?
What found footage film do you want to see? The one where David Huggins fills that bowl. All right, that's not found.
Damn it, Harley Warren.
Of course, Harley Warren.
Okay.
Yes, give him his thing. That's not found footage. No
My
one wants to
hero.
find- Ugh.
Oh, he found something.
We went to this room. There was this bowl on this table, and I was supposed to ejaculate into the bowl.
No, Tommy Warner is my new favorite UFO painter. I don't have to see bowls. What found footage film do you want to see of all the bro dude moments? I just want to see the moment he peed his pants. What's up with that? signed Unbeliever Greza. Good callback, Unbeliever Greza.
Love that one.
I wet my pants. I did.
That's not the what's up with that. We've got
They're
too
so
many
similar.
Pete Your Pants
So
clips.
similar.
Pete Pants clips in this show, it's like people have seen this Reed thing. There's just too many.
I peed my pants, man.
I'm not going to
What's up with that?
Come on.
Thank you, Unbeliever Greza. What found footage film do you want to see? Ass hair. Signed Rococo Style.
Okay.
Rococo Style, I don't think was ever a clip. If it was, it never got to us. We'll try to find it. God damn it. We love it, Rococo Style.
Still not
Thank
found
you.
footage, but thank you.
The Rococo Style clip is found footage at this point. What found footage film do you want to see? A hangover type night in Vegas from the POV of that weird driveway Dobby creature. Featuring Zach Baggins. Theodore Don't. signed Voodoo. All right, POV of the weird driveway Dobby creature with Zach Baggins. All right, I'd watch it.
Theodore Don't.
Thank you, Voodoo. What found footage film do you want to see? Bro, I got no talent and little kids like me. Signed, Jake Paul. All right, we know Jake Paul.
That's good.
Thank you for participating. What found footage film do you want to see? Woo! Signed, Rick Flair.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
I love it. That's so out of nowhere. That's great.
Rick, Flair. What found footage film do you want to see? Look, if those guys can't find the hood release, what other hooded items can they not find? The clit? It's a clit reference. Signed, Blue Box UFO. I love that one. You are a finalist, Blue Box UFO. They couldn't find the hood. I got it. And the final one for tonight. What found footage film do you want to see? Scrambled fish from Pants Filler. Oh, great one, Pants Filler. Always a think of that last
The
one.
only hat I ever wear now is my scrambled eggs.
Scrambled
You got
fish.
scrambled egg. Oh, there you go. I think you meant scrambled fish. Thank you so much to the guy who
be throwing up and filling my pants.
Yes, thank you everyone for, and a lot of people actually voted because I think they want we did pick the actual movie, which will be Phoenix Incident. I'm just gonna read some of the ones that really stuck out to me tonight. Friendly Weatherman. It would be cool if they found the footage of Epstein's cell, but someone would come to my house and kick my ass. We had the Dern Fisher Sneaker Salesman. I found footage once. Can't look at my parents the same ever since.
That one's
I
funny.
like that one. Unbeliever Carol with the one where you slap your ass cheeks together. Well, what happened? I really liked Unbeliever Greza. Oh, of all the bro dude moments, I want to see the moment he peed his pants. What's up with that? Ass hair from Rococo Style. I also really liked Ric Flair with Woo. And also Blue Box UFO with Look, if those guys can't find the hood release, what other hooded items can they not find? The clit, it's a clit reference. So many great ones. I'm going to leave it up to Brendan Shea. Who do you think won this week's poll results, Brendan?
I don't know. I was down to two favorites. The Epstein one was a good one, but I'm going to have to go with my boy Ric Flair because that was out of nowhere and it was hilarious.
It had nothing to do with anything, and sometimes
it was great.
You guys,
sometimes that's what it's about. Yeah,
it just throws us off. I'm not saying to do that intentionally, but that was great.
Talking about out of nowhere, congratulations for winning this week's poll, Ric Flair with Woo! You just won this week's poll results. Oh, we've come to the end of the program, but before we go, Brendan Shea, TV's Brendan Shea Bay, do you have anything you would like to say or plug?
Thanks for having me back. This was a fun episode. I loved Unsolved Mysteries as a kid, and I love that it's back. And you all know me from Serial Spirits, the podcast. So you can go check that out. And Annie Weebs, my beautiful co-host, does Serial Spirits Live on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and it streams on Facebook on Paranormal Warehouse's Facebook page. And this coming Tuesday, we are going to have our friend Chad Lindbergh is going to be with Annie. Whoa. So check that out. But at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Paranormal Warehouse's Facebook page.
All right. That's quite a get. Thanks so much for being on. How about you, Drea Mora? Anything to say or plug?
I am actually starting up my dishonorable mentions again on my Twitter, which is at Unbeliever Drea. And also, the podcast that I'm also doing on the side is in full swing, which is Spirits and Spirits. I'm going to start up a Twitter for that as well soon, but in the meantime, we're on Instagram at Spirits and Spirits Pod, and send us any stories or anything you want to say about ghosts and alcohol at spiritsandspiritspod@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm going to say go give Spirits and Spirits 5 stars on iTunes. Go subscribe, go give it 5 stars, go check it out. It's a great show. How about you, Rob Oakey? Anything to say or plug?
I will say just go and rate and review us on iTunes, The Unbelievers Podcast, and follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Unbelievers Podcast. Friday nights we go on there. We do some fun stuff, so check that out. And check out our Patreon, too. You know, we got some fun stuff going on there.
Why not?
So, yeah, check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/The Unbelievers Podcast.
Always fun stuff. We got a Discord. We got all that stuff. Check it out. This is coming out a little later, but man, an episode, a year to the day of our original Famous Reed episode. The Reed is back. It's completely coincidence.
The synchronicity is really high.
July 10th, 2019. July 10th now. And boy, do we sound different a year ago. Boy, I don't know. But thank you all for sticking around this long with us and listening to us and our nonsense. The Unbelievers Podcast hosts today were Drea Mora, Brendan Shea, and me, Russ Ryan. Our producer and soundboard engineer is Rob Oakey. You can join our Patreon by going to patreon.com/UnbelieversPodcast. You can follow the show on Twitter at UnbelieversPod and Instagram at Unbelievers Podcast. Our Facebook group is the Unbelievable Podcast Network. Check out our merch store at cafepress.com/UnbelieversPodcast. And thank you so much to all the patrons. Vic Voss, Robert Groom, Little BB, Dr. Ortega, Tyler Ventura, Adam Dvorak, Corrupted Mass, Michael Phillips, Weary Exile, Carol Valley, Manny MQ Ultra, CJP, Michael Phillips, Braden Hitt, Raymond Rowell, Todd X, Christopher Panici, The Moon, The Judgy Moon, Mike Henry, Bryce Cronenberg Jr., Don Bright, Shannon Ferrigno, Tom O'Connell, Mark Braun, Donna Banch, Jenna Stevens, Cat Chaos, Jason Kelly, Mike, Brian Ashton, Michael Armenta, Jackass, Wombat Preservationist. Our official composer and theme song creator is Unbeliever Aaron, a.k.a. Aaron Chilb. Go check out his new podcast, Nashville Tour Stop. Our official graphic designer and card maker who designed our logo is Raymond Rowell. Check out his work at B Raven Creative on Twitter and Project Raven Creative on Instagram. Our official resident Sagittarius is Kozantarn. Our official Madman is Unbeliever Adam. Our official Mothman enthusiast is Michael Shields. Our official Unbelievers Moonfawn Inside Man is Kristen Moraes. Our official Unbeliever Peacefully Eating a Hamburger is Michelle Durham. Our official Unbelievers Time Traveler is Taylor Nelson. Our official Ghost Hunter is Amelia Childs and Ghost Hunting in New England. Our official senior European correspondent is K-Mill of I Don't Know Podcast. Our official Guardian of the Bench is that Kraken Stacker. Our official Alien Bopper is Nunchuck Bob. And this week's Unbeliever focus is Spencer Paul, who didn't believe that we could find clips of the Reed talking about rods. Hey, I didn't either, man. But after watching Unsolved Mysteries, we both said,
hello, I believe it.
Good night. Feral Show.
Somewhere knows the truth. Join me. You may be able to help solve a mystery.
Discontinue! Discontinue!